we go. All right, and we're back. Sorry, that was a mess. Okay, and if I go into the other stream, no, I'll just leave that here. Thank you. All right, sorry, I was gonna answer your question. Do I prefer the aqua board or the encaustic board? I'm not sure. They are different. I'll actually pull out a piece on aqua board here. So this piece here is aqua board. Sorry, let me just take a closer look at here and see if I can get you a better focus. Can we, there we go. There we go. That's better. And snap back. Any day now it can snap back. Hello. There we go. So the piece up at the top, this is on aqua board. You can see there's like a little bit of a speckly texture, and that is from the bumps on the surface itself. So that changes how it also lifts easier. So it's interesting because on the one hand it has this bumpy texture that's similar to cold press watercolor paper. I usually use hot press, so in that sense I do prefer the smoother texture of the encaustic board. But part of what I really loved about working with the aqua board is just how easy it is to lift off of that surface. It does take a little bit more scrubbing, weirdly, to get up off of the encaustic board. So I think it depends a little bit on what I'm painting. In some contexts I might prefer, if I'm planning on using a lot of lifting, then I might prefer to use the encaustic board, and other times I might prefer to, or sorry, other way around. I might prefer to use the aqua board, and in other cases I might prefer to use the encaustic board. I'm also playing with treating panels with all kinds of other substances and trying to make my own watercolor surfaces. So yeah, ooh, okay, apparently I've got some loading icons. Yeah, it is really neat that you don't have to worry about the paper wrinkling at all. The other thing I've done actually is, this is an aluminum composite panel that I've laminated a watercolor paper directly to the panel. So that's another way that you can achieve similar things. Jordan, can you put the dog out, please? Cutie? Can you put the dog out, please? Can you put the dog out, please? So yeah, it is nice to not have to tape things down. You can also just mount watercolor paper directly to a panel for that. You can also buy boards that already have watercolor paper mounted to them. Why is there a spinny icon? Why, oh why? I don't like the spinny icon. Is my stream lagging a bunch? I'm sorry if my stream is lagging a bunch. I pay for the best internet. Anyway, what else? Yeah, so I am just going to over on here, open this guy, and just keep working on this. don't think the stream is lagging. Okay, I'm getting a little spinny icon on my stream preview every so often. So, but then at the same time it says that the stream health is excellent. So I don't know what to make of that. Yeah, I've been nerding out about surfaces a bunch recently. Because there's all sorts of things I don't really love about working on paper. It's not just the fact that it warps while you're painting on it. That actually, you can get heavier papers that do that a lot less. These are actually the really tiny pieces, so that wouldn't be really a huge problem. When I do paint on paper, I usually use 300 pound or 640 GSM paper, which really doesn't do a huge amount of warping. But, sorry, just trying to get all of these little raised cups here. I've got the reference for this over on my Discord. Here we go. Anyway, I've been nerding out about surfaces a whole bunch and just exploring a little bit of what else you can paint with watercolor on. The interesting thing is watercolor paper is usually treated. So usually there's a sizing, usually that's gelatin, usually with a buffer like calcium carbonate to keep it from the paper from decaying from acid in the paints or the cellulose itself. And so you have acid-free paper, and then it's got a buffer solution on top of it along with some calcium carbonate. Now the interesting thing is these days surfaces for other paints like oil paints or acrylic are usually treated with an acrylic gesso, which is like a plastic based surface that seals the paints away from the canvas. But the truth is that that's a relatively new invention. All plastics are. Acrylics haven't existed forever. And so prior to acrylic gesso, painters used a combination of rabbit skin glue, which is, it's gelatin. It's the same thing that we use to prime watercolor paper for watercolors. And then a number of absorbent white powders, talc, calcium carbonate, whatever. And so a lot of these surfaces are actually like they're an absorbent ground that's got a whole bunch of whatever it is, calcium carbonate, talc, etc. The aquaboard is a clay-based surface. It's aerated clay, so it's got all sorts of bubbles, and that's what holds the paint in place. but not very strongly. This encaustic board is it is an acrylic base, but it's meant to mimic the behavior of rabbit skin glue based surface preparations. So I've got my hands on a bunch of ingredients, and I'll be trying stuff out, treating surfaces various ways and seeing how that all works out. Hey. Right? It's super cool. The other thing that I've got a few things that I'm excited to experiment with. I'll show you. So I started researching traditional grounds, and the truth is I would really rather not have to prepare all my own surfaces, because I have two very fluffy animals, and my house gets full of dust, and I'm sure that I would make a great big mess, and I much prefer to just buy a prepared surface. Although I also, when I get paper, I can specify the size. I buy paper by the roll, and I get a local art preparator to laminate it to aluminum composite panel, and then I can specify what sizes I need, including non-standard sizes or very large sizes, which you can't really do with these little panels, because they're like an off-the-shelf product by one company. Here I have, it's called Easy Gesso from Rubla Colors. Natural Pigments LLC, and this is their extra fine ready mix traditional chalk ground. It's calcium carbonate and titanium dioxide mixed with rabbit skin glue, which is like a really strong gelatin. And I'm gonna try applying this to a few different kinds of panels and see how it behaves as far as taking watercolor, because I have a sneaking suspicion that it's actually going to work really well. Now the challenge is just going to be like making a nice smooth surface to work on. Yeah. So I'm a little bit concerned about my user error in application, but I think that it has a lot of potential. Similarly, I also got traditional silver point ground, which is just calcium carbonate mixed with rabbit skin glue. And that, I think, again, will work for watercolor, but it will also be interesting to actually do some silver point drawing, and I do have silver points. So I have some really little one here. So I got silver, and it's like nickel silver or something, that is softer. So there's this guy, and these guys. And because I wanted to experiment with different sizes, oh boy, this is already tarnished. That's interesting. Even in its little protective bag, that is so interesting. Anyway, I've done some silver point before. If you're going to do more silver point, you can actually just get silver wire. What's actually cheaper is to get silver wire and a mechanical pencil that fits it and just put the silver point in there. But these were on sale, and this is something that I just do occasionally, so it was easier than trying to get all the different thicknesses and types of wire. And I needed to get my cart value up enough to qualify for free shipping on the other stuff. So I did get actual silver point slides. Yeah, it is really interesting. I took a workshop once with a local artist. It's got a lot of the feel of pencil without, you know, the smudging graphite over your paper or all the erasing. Like a sweet spot between ink drawing and pencil in many ways. Anyway, I can here play with how much I can lift up here. So you can see I can lift up some of the pigment from this surface. Where did I put? Here we go. Little fabric scraps. Let's see, let's get some darker mix here. There we go. There's also some, like, resist happening in some places here, and I'm wondering whether it had absorbed finger oils or something. Like, it's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that, given that it's an acrylic-based finish, but it does kind of feel like it. I really like how realistic you paint. It's amazing how much detail you managed to pack in. Yeah, I like getting lost in tiny little details. Sometimes even there's a line between real the realism and textural abstraction, and I actually kind of like that point where it's like you don't even know what you're looking at exactly anymore. It's like an abstract texture. The truth is, like, there's a lot of detail here, but often it doesn't matter exactly where each of these little things is. It's like the layering of different textures that matters. So this isn't going to come out exactly like the reference photo with all of the different fruiting bodies of these different lichens in exactly the same place, because that doesn't matter. I'm just sort of pulling from the whole thing. I'll also come in and ink and scrape out some fine highlights afterwards. The painting little details is sort of meditative for me. Just sort of get lost in the routine of like paint this little thing, paint that little thing. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. What? There we go. Abstract texture is still texture. Oh, absolutely. I guess I was just saying that detail isn't like we often confuse detail with realism, where things can be realistic but not detailed, and sometimes detail isn't actually realism. Sometimes detail is just detail, right? Like sometimes detail is abstract, and so I do paint realism in a way, but it's not photorealism. It's not. It's often over sharpened over a larger piece of a larger portion of the painting. I also do. A fair bit of like. I'm just realizing that my studio here doesn't. Most of my stuff is actually in my other studio right now because I had an exhibition and then sent stuff off. But for example here, like this is quite a bit of ink line work, so it's got like kind of a graphic graphic novel, comic book sort of over sharpened look to it, outlined, and that's deliberate. And so this will actually end up with, like right now it's looking kind of soft, but the stuff through the foreground will actually have some sharper details coming in as well with line work. Apologies for this very groany chair. I promise I'm not just farting all the time. Like the two mushrooms on the aqua board. Yes. I think if you're referring to like the whatever graphic sort of like this guy. Yeah. So like the finish will actually be similar here, and that's kind of what I actually chose a similar reference, actually taken the same day, in very much the same area. So this was I spent a few weeks on an island in northern Ontario, on Lake Superior, called Porphyry Island. And so both of these references are from there. And they were actually taken on the same day and very, very close to each other. Like, sort of, took one of these pictures and turned around and took the other. The reference pictures I used here. This one is also a small section of a much larger log that's got all of these different sections on it. So I'm actually also going to do a much larger piece that just has that log. And probably fade out the background entirely, from here out. Either put it on a white background or like really fade it out to a light almost not there. I've done a lot of like spot illustration type, the traditional botanical white background, and I've largely moved away from that in the sense of I'm more interested in looking at the whole ecosystem rather than isolating one specific little element, one specific little species, and like putting it in a bell jar metaphorically. But in some cases it's helpful to still pull one element, so like this is a decaying log, and still push the rest of the forest out into the background so that you are just focusing on that. So I'm still debating exactly how I'm going to approach that. Since nature doesn't live in a vacuum bell jar. Yeah. And a lot of my subjects are also, again, I don't have them right now because I had an exhibition at City Hall, actually, so it was focused on local urban species, but a lot of my references are from, a lot of what I paint is just what's around me, what lives, just outside my front door, and just realizing that, we are a part of our environment. We sort of just don't even see the nature around us. We think of nature as like, oh, we go on this expedition, we go all the way over there, we go to this isolated island somewhere, which, like, don't get me wrong, I love going to isolated islands. There's a completely different feel to, the experience of living there, for one. But nature exists everywhere, and we're a part of it, and you can't just pull out, one species. That's exactly it. Like, you can't, nothing lives in a bell jar. Sometimes pretty. I think pure white backgrounds are very isolating. Yeah, I mean, I guess they maybe have their place. You can have spot illustrations where, again, even if you're not drawing attention necessarily to, like, oh, this is only one species that exists in one place. I'm working with the city. They just contacted me yesterday. It's like, hey, I feel so seen. On some park informational placards that are going into city parks that are going to be about, some of the nature that's around, and the usefulness of, like, standing trees and fallen logs and stuff, different species. And so there's going to be, like, individual little spot illustrations to draw attention to specific things. And I am looking forward to that. And in that context, it's like, yeah, well, I mean, if you're doing an infographic where you've got different aspects of a scene that you want to draw attention to, in that case, it does make sense to sort of isolate them, pull them out of background, because you've got their background right there, right? Like you're looking into that scene and like, okay, well now I'm just going to pull this that you've got right in front of you. I'm going to draw attention to this one specific thing. Wish I lived close, I'd go see. Yeah, well, I'll share. I'm sure I'll share progress pictures and then go once the placards are up. Go take pictures, share them online. But also come visit. I'm in southwestern Ontario, Kitchener, Waterloo. Yep. Ooh, that's too yellow. Okay, well, maybe I don't. So here we're just gonna change what that is. I'm near Seattle, Washington, opposite side of the continent. Yeah, it's a little far. Got some lovely nature there, though. Lovely nature I'd love to see. Unfortunately, not about to cross that border, but be right back. I need to get some water. some fungi pictures yesterday. I love the landscape out here. Yeah, you've got a very nice climate for, you know, some green year round. Gets hard. I'm in Wimp, Canada, mind you. Like, doesn't get cold here like most of the country, but even still, we still, you know, our ground froze over. We had our first snowfall in November, and the ground's been covered since then. Usually we have a little bit longer. Like, usually we don't really have any heavy snowfall until like late December. So it's only a few months of total ground cover. We actually also are having a very warm day today, so a lot of the snow piles are melting, just leaving quite a yucky little slush, although I did peek out into my garden and notice that there's some green peeking out from under the snow, some kind of herbs that I'd planted. I'm not entirely sure, it's not quite clear yet what exactly has survived in full green. Try to just cover this. I don't worry actually too much about these orange highlight areas. I may end up scraping them up to get some sharper highlights later. It's actually been warm enough where I am that my tubers are starting to sprout on Christmas. Yeah, we've had a very, very cold winter so far. Like, usually our coldest months are January, February. But we had quite a cold November and December. And it's actually warming up now. So we had quite a bit of cold and quite a bit of snow pile up earlier in the season. And it probably won't melt entirely, but it's just been melting enough that some things are peeking through around the corners. Just posted my fungi pic in the reference pictures tab on Discord. Amazing! Thank you. I'll go check that out. Where's that? Ooh! That is very nice. I like that. Some nice little bracket fungus there. Oh, there's quite a bit of stuff going on. I love it. Very, very nice. Oh, where did I do? Okay, let me just... Hello? Yeah, alright. And then we put that there. No, I don't want to put it here. No. There we go. Perfect. I missed something. That's in your in-laws' front yard. That's so cool. Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Okay, and then back to my own reference photo here. Thank you for keeping me company here. This is really lovely. It's a bit of a quiet stream. I've been dealing with some health issues, and so I've not been streaming regularly. So in the past, I might have, 10, 15 people in the chat, but it's not happening. But it's still nice to have, to have a little work time. Chat one-on-one. No problem. I really like watching. Aww. I'm actually enjoying how this piece is filling out. I've been picking at it for a couple weeks, but mostly at my other studio and while working on like grant application stuff with my assistant. And so this is the first time that I'm really sort of focusing just on like, this is my main activity. I like that it's coming together. I'm sorry for the health issues. I was just reading about them on Discord. Yeah, it's a line where, like, on the one hand, I want to be upfront with people because I keep disappearing off the internet. The truth is, like, I never know exactly what's going on. It's been a mystery for years at this point. It does seem like, yep, well, we have some answers. Came about in a strange way. I would not have expected that the answers would finally come from fertility testing. But there we go. That's where we found the issues. And so, yeah, it does seem like it's probably treatable, like even if it is cancer, it's does not seem like it's likely anything super aggressive or that's metastasized anywhere. But I'll find out more next week. And it does seem like, well, certainly there's treatment that will, simple, easy treatment that will improve my functioning. So that's good. Looking forward to being human a little bit again. But yeah, it always feels awkward, like, getting on Discord or even like especially like the broader web and being like, here's some health issues I'm having and we don't really know what's causing them, because for the past 5-6 years that they've been building up, like it's not been, it's been a good like 4 years of me just not functioning, and a lot of that was like we had no idea. Some of it was medication. A lot of it was medication that I was taking for some symptoms, for some things that were making other things a lot worse. Anyway, yeah, kind of awkward coming out and like sharing health stuff. It's like, well, I don't really want a pity party, but I also don't have like any kind of update for what's going on. Like, I feel like shit, and I don't know why. So at some level, it feels nice that there's some update, but it's still like very, very much up in the air exactly what, just how bad things are gonna be. what the treatment's going to be like, what recovery's going to be like, whatever. But it does seem like, in any case, there is treatment. I will be better. So that's the positive I'm holding on to. Being human is always nice. I'm glad you have answers. Yes, I am glad that I'm starting to get answers, and that some of them are leading to me feeling a little bit more human. Having some energy from time to time. Yeah, I know that, but at the same time, it's just it just feels like if I'm not giving answers, then gee, I'm just dropping the ball all the time. And disappearing, and nobody knows why. It's awkward. I don't want to be that person. But at the same time, I also don't want to just drop everything and say, okay, well, sorry, not gonna do any work, not gonna be present, not gonna participate in community events, and I'm not going to, even try to maintain my social media. I suppose it was like, I need to maintain hope that, yeah, it's weird. Yep, absolutely. Anyway, thank you for your understanding. Sorry for, whatever that was. Anyway, good news is it seems like there's light at the end of the tunnel. Still a lot of big questions that I guess I'll find out some of the answers to next week. I am going to actually get a pen these little fine liners anymore. Nah, I don't like how it runs on this. Oh, that's so weird. There's like a scrapiness to drawing on this stuff. Ugh. Not thrilled with that. Didn't realize that when I started. Very, very scrapey. Huh. Oh, whoops. If it helps, the scratchiness of the pen on the board doesn't sound horrible on stream. I'm glad to hear that, but actually my concern is more just I don't even like painting on cold pressed paper because it's a textural thing, a textural aversion, sensory thing. So I thought it would be better than on the aquaboard, because the aquaboard is bumpy, but the aquaboard doesn't have as much grip, I guess. Not sure exactly what's going on. Let's see, what if I do here and change the orientation of this? Oh yeah, okay. If I just let that sink in, will it come back up to the surface? That's part of my question. It's like if I just let that sit, because it does seem to spread pigment, so what if I just let it sit for a moment, let it wet? Okay, that is interesting. That it behaves like that. It like if you just try to scrape things off, it doesn't really work, but if you let the water sit for a moment, you can actually lift it quite easily. Neat. So if I try that again here in a smaller way, just like that, and let that sit for a moment. Sit. Add some more. And then lift it. Yeah, okay. Interesting. sensory aversions can suck so hard. Yeah. And it's a bit odd as a watercolor artist too, that like I have a sensory aversion to cold pressed paper. Problematic. I'm somewhat getting over it. Like I'm getting used to like rougher papers. I'm just forcing myself a little bit. I mean, in some ways, the scrapiness is actually nice because it allows me to do these sort of like broken lines, but it is kind of like drawing on sandpaper. Like it's really not a pleasant feeling. My goal was then to, I have a knife handy. Okay, not a knife, but so there's sometimes what you want is, let's see, if I just, yeah. I'm scraping away. I'm using a fountain pen that I don't love very much. to scrape away some sharper highlights. No, maybe I do want a knife. Wait a moment. Where have I hidden my blades? Still not a blade, but here's the 10 I was using on the other ones. Oh, this one is, wait, is this one actually working? That's new. Did it start working again? No, okay, good. Why is it so fine though? And why is it so gray when I scrape? I don't like it. Something, It's like, it's very, very fine. I guess maybe because it's smooth and sandy, and it's also like, it's leaving gray. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. What time is Okay, I'm sorry. My back is starting to hurt, and so I'm gonna call this a day. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will be back with more painting next week. In the meantime, I'll be on Discord. Again, thanks so much. Bye-bye. Aw, thanks. Love you too.